So that was State of Origin. For all those who are watching this is going to be a pretty raw kind of first reaction. And I also know that I haven't uploaded on this channel for a good while. But with AFL season now, like pretty much officially kicked off, I wanted to give my quick initial thoughts on the State of Origin game that just happened because that was really, really good. I was really, really happy with how that turned out. I think the only people who could say that it isn't incredible are Carlton fans because, my God, was that a stinker for any Carlton fan watching. Not just because Paddy Cripps looked a bit like a pedestrian out there. I don't know. He just didn't seem all that in it compared to others. Maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. But, I mean, a very, very silent 20 possessions. He had 17 handballs to 3 kicks. Maybe that's why. But he looked fairly quiet. But obviously, the real reason that they're the biggest loser of tonight is because they've lost Jacob Wiedering for what seems to be a decent period. And that was always the worry. That was the worry with something like this being played in this type of intensity, is that someone would inevitably get themselves hurt in a scenario where they really didn't need to. I guess the positive side of things is that it's better it happened, if this scenario was to play out, it's better this happened now than it ever would have happened throughout the season, because he's got what looks to be 3 weeks to a month to rest up, hopefully be all right for the season start. But throughout the entire reporting while watching that game, it was reported eventually within the second quarter, I believe, that it was a shoulder and rib concern. No confirmed injury just yet. But, of course, with the way it looked, and it was straight away after he was landed on by the 2 other players that he was in the contest with, it was just straight away you went, yeah, that's not good. That's really, really not good. So that was the first thing I wanted to get through, because it was probably the only negative that I had of the entire thing. I think overall, that was a bloody fantastic contest to watch. I have a lot of opinions I could go through, so I'm trying my best to keep it brief with everything that I point out here. But firstly, I want to say WA, fantastic performance. Honestly, they played so much more gutsy than the Vics did. So more gutsy, with not only their passion, you could tell they were so pumped every single play. It's good to see that they really took it in stride, this whole State of Origin clash. It took the history in stride as well. They really pushed it. It was fantastic to watch, because with events like this, I think a lot of people immediately go to North American sports, in the sense that the All-Star weekend for the NBA is on right now, and we already know that the NBA All-Star game is going to be a joke, in the sense that we're not going to see them play at the highest level. We're going to see them mess around for 40 minutes. And then the NFL, for obvious reasons, they don't play the type of game that they usually play. They play the flag football, I believe, or they play a much softer version, because the injury concern in a game like that would be through the roof. So the fact that we got the contest that we had in a State of Origin game that really doesn't mean all that much in the grand scheme of things. Look, the fact that they put on for history, a trophy was handed out, some best on ground medals that both went to GWS players. At the end of the day, I think GWS were the biggest winners of the night, if I'm being honest. Toby Green, fantastic. Let himself down towards the end purely because of the fact that he was a bit woeful in front of goal. 2 goals, 2 isn't anything bad, but yeah, when he could have iced the game, he missed a few opportunities, but he was just all over it. Of course, Jesse Hogan winning the Graham Moss medal for the WA side with 5 goals. I mean, looking at the statistics, yeah, it was pretty clear. But my honest hope to God was that Dacos didn't find a way to get himself best on ground here, purely because it was the quietest 38 possession game I've seen in a good while. And that's no disrespect to Dacos. I think he did what he was supposed to do, and his role, he was the linking player. It was super smooth in that first quarter, and I could really get into depth with every single quarter of this game, because it was really, really interesting to see so many different flows of momentum in a game like this. Like, I can't stress enough how awesome it was to see a game that felt like it could have been really let go be played with that much intensity. I could go on about that forever. That was the biggest win out of the entire night. But Dacos, really smooth, really, really effective with ball in the first and second quarter. I think he did start to dip out of it towards the end, but, I mean, he's had his usual game that he would play for Collingwood. He was all over it, and if he can play it like that through the season, he'll be in the running again for another Brownlow potential season. But I honestly thought Bontempelli was best on ground. I think all his possessions were effective. Every time he had the ball in his hand, it felt like he was a step above the person he was playing in front of. It's just classic Bontempelli. There's a reason so many teams want to build around him. He just looked fantastic. Bailey Smith, I'm looking just through the AFL website, and like many, we go to AFL fantasy points first and scroll down from there. But look, it's just the natural way that it sets itself up, all right? Leave me alone. But Bailey Smith, it's usual Bailey Smith. He got himself involved. Noting Bailey Smith, I don't think he had any like crazy moments. Kicked a goal in there, which was great for him. But the biggest surprise from Geelong tonight was actually in the positive side, Lawson Humphries. Ripper game, I think. Considering he's a role player for Geelong, the fact that he played such a fantastic role for WA for his state side, again, pointed out in broadcast that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, he was playing state-level waffle football, and now he's representing his state and shining. Like, what a story. But on the other side of things for Geelong, Max Holmes was a bit of a pedestrian tonight. Although he had the 21 disposals, like this is a game where a lot of players had high disposals, let's be honest. It's the best of the best. It's not only is it's kind of easy to find your way around and get yourself open when there's so many people you got to look out for, but it is also fairly certain that players who are on ball is naturally going to know how to get themselves involved in the play no matter what. But a very, very quiet 21 from Max Holmes, and there were a lot of moments that had me a little concerned, mainly because he was being played as a half-backer. If I'm being completely honest, he's just out of position. It's probably why Max Holmes seemed so out of it. But look, nonetheless, loads of meters gained. How much can you really take out of it? At the end of the day, the biggest thing to take out of this is that State of Origin is still alive. That's really the biggest thing to take out of it. I could go into individual performances, but who really cares? I think that's the main thing you got to take. You got to go home from this game thinking, who cares about the individual performances? This is state level football. You got to represent your state. Who cares who's best on ground realistically? And so, while there may be a bit of confusion about the Lockie Ash bests on ground, even I was a bit confused. I don't know whether others were. I haven't seen their reactions, but Lockie Ash definitely surprised me. I sat there thinking it's definitely going to go to Dacos just because of how monster his stat line looks. But Lockie Ash was exciting, man. That run with Luke Jackson chasing him, that was fantastic. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good to watch. This is so good to watch. And there's so many little moments. I think literally just the one negative being Wiedering's injury. Just the one negative. You could maybe say Darcy was surprisingly quiet. Sam Darcy, because I know a lot of people had high hopes with him tonight, with how big his off-season has been reported. But again, who's to say you can really go about like knocking anyone in this scenario? It is a game where like players were being rested pretty heavy. Like players would have a lot of rotations, the extra players on the bench to give them rotation time. In terms of time on ground, Tom Barrass and Blake Hardwick, two Hawthorn blokes with the 92% on ground. So I don't know how Hawthorn are feeling about that, but Sam Mitchell was in the box. He's the assistant. He's one of the assistant coaches. So clearly he's all right with them representing their sides. So I guess good on Sam Mitchell. Barrass and Hardwick came out unscathed. They didn't go down hurt. Yeah, literally just, I'm sorry to keep harping on it, but Jacob Wiedering, it's super unfortunate because he's going to play such a vital role for Carlton this year. And the fact that he's gone down with an injury that will probably take him out for the start of the season is a horrible thing for Carlton. So they will definitely be the ones that you'll hear the loudest saying State of Origin is a waste of time. But I think if we're looking at game quality, fantastic all round. If we're looking at the summary, just general summary of the game, I would say WA very, very easily could have pipped this from the Vicks. And that's a really, really good sign for the future of State of Origin, because now there'll be a little bit of an incentive to the WA side to pick up their training or find a way to improve come the next time, because they're all pretty adamant they want to do this again. at least from the initial reactions of captains and medal winners. They all want to do this again. And absolutely, I'm all for it right now. But Vix got off to the big lead, I think, midway through the second. And then from there, WA, like, they looked dangerous all game, all second half specifically. Obviously, their big jump back into it was that run that got them, I think, 4 points away from tying this game up. Seriously, I can't say enough positives to WA. They looked like they really, really wanted this game. And considering this could have easily been a run over, considering how long State of Origin has been out, the fact that WA put on a show like that is seriously impressive. That is seriously, seriously impressive. But I think Vic's talent just took him over the line. Honestly, the Vics looked like they were entitled to a win. It was really strange. Really, really strange. But I guess some other little things we can take out of it. Liam Baker, I reckon, is going to have a ripper season if he plays like that. He put his heart and soul on the line, and representing WA as the captain for the West Coast Eagles will be a really exciting scenario and challenge for Liam Baker this year. There's a few names here and there and people who have said that Liam Baker could, the West Coast Eagles, should I say, could get themselves out of the bottom four with all this new talent, potentially rejuvenized side with some new faces coming in and some old faces heading out. But like the likes of Waterman was actually really solid tonight as well. He was a standout. Easily, if it wasn't for Hogan, could have found himself being the main target and getting himself some best on ground votes. But lots of positives for WA in this game, not just from the performance of their side, but for their clubmen, for Freo player like Luke Jackson. Pretty fantastic game from him. Like, it's hard to say and find negatives about this game outside the one obvious. Really, really hard. I could go on forever about just raving and ranting on how competitive this game was. And I think that is what is key to keeping State of Origin really exciting for the future. Because the idea of them fighting for something other than just bragging rights as well, I think is a really enticing format. It's all going to come down to, will the club let it happen? There's plenty of players that went out during the game with hamstring awareness. That was the big one. I think Callum Archie was gone for a bit. Mitch Georgiades, I know, didn't play in the second half at all for hamstring awareness. And I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting. But yeah, just all over the place. Sam Taylor, I believe, was one that went out, was also a hamstring awareness. But Matt Rao was a finger injury. Like, there's the few here and there that had to sit out for a bit because teams just did not want to risk it. And you can't really blame them. You look at Carlton now, their season's in big jeopardy already. That's an awful, awful scenario that they're sitting in. So I am hopeful that there will be fixes in the future. Again, for a starting point, I think this is a fantastic starting point for what State of Origin could look like in the modern era. I'm just really hopeful that things like the Wiedering injury can have its workaround. And I'm also just hopeful that the injury isn't long-term, or long-term as it looks to be. Because if he has to miss a month, I think that's the best case scenario is what it's looking like. Ribs and shoulder, you just hope that, yeah, it's not a massive season ender. And I don't imagine it will be. But it was a very scary looking injury. So, I mean, fingers crossed that he could even find himself there for opening round if it's not as bad as it seems. It's just with how severe the injury looked, they had to take all the precautions. I mean, the Vic trainers, probably the best thing you could hear when it comes to looking after your health is the Victorian trainers are there to help you out. It's hard to get much more confident in your ability to improve and to heal up than that. Of course, same goes for the WA side. They would have been more than happy with the fact that they have the state's best trainers to help them out. So I don't want to harp on about the negative like that for very, very long. I think because it was the only negative, it's really easy to highlight it and continuously come back to it. I just want to say, this is step one, and it is a massive step. It's fantastic. I'm really hopeful that this rebounds and launch pads off into something really, really big. Whether it does just become a bragging right scenario every year or a one-off event, I'm cool with that too. If it can stay at this level of intensity every time, I think we did get fairly lucky that it ended up being a pretty close game, despite it being a 24-point win. That felt really close. WA absolutely could have pipped them. So I am really excited to see if we can turn this into a playoff style format in the future. Fingers crossed for that. That's all I can say. But I appreciate you guys listening to me ramble. If you did make it all the way through, I'm hopeful that you guys enjoyed the night. And I'm just really keen for the AFL season to start, man. This is definitely the absolutely perfect way to get season 2026 started, I reckon. Level of intensity is exactly what we wanted. I'd say it's much better than the one we had last year, purely because last year, Freo versus Indigenous All-Stars, while I like the idea of bringing the Indigenous All-Stars in, this state level stuff is fantastic. This state level, something to really rep is really, really cool. And look, not to say that the Indigenous All-Stars didn't rep their culture or anything like that, but against Freo is probably the thing that let them down. This was perfect in terms of a matchup. So, let's do it again. 2027, State of Origin 2027. Let's do it again and even bigger and better. I'm keen for that. So, thanks for listening in. Appreciate you tuning around and sticking with me rambling for a bit. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will hopefully see you all very, very soon for some more AFL discussion. Appreciate it, guys.